Everybody's an influencer. No matter where you're at, you're an influencer. Are you really giving them value though? Are you making yourself more valuable by giving out the value?
What becomes more valuable is quality of what's being said, not pictures of your food at your mom's house eating dinner, and also production quality. I think a lot of people, they're just doing content. They're copying other people in hopes that they can get something that they can get followers from. And I think that's completely the wrong way to do it. Instead,
Welcome back, another episode of Wealthy Creator. I'm your host, Justin Berry, and I have the pleasure with me today, what I'm considering a good friend now. We've been working together for about a year, been consulting on his social media. He was part of the original OGs of Content Empire, which is now Wealthy Creator, and we're still going strong. I have with me Aaron Novello.
Yeah, what's up, brother?
How you doing, man?
It's awesome to have this conversation with you in person, because we speak on a regular basis, like bi-weekly, and now just to do this in person is great. Oh
man, it's awesome. I'm so glad you was able to make it. We've been planning on this for about, 6-7 months now, trying to get you in, and it's good. This WealthCon week this week, so you get to see some of the inner workings of everything and the prep for that. So that's exciting. But yeah, man, I'm happy you're able to come out, truly.
For sure.
So Aaron, I'm gonna jump straight into this thing, man. I want to know, I know you as a great businessman, but I want you to tell a little bit of your story so that people can begin to understand who Aaron is, the person, the businessman, the business owner.
Yeah.
The individual. Tell me more about yourself.
Yeah. So I grew up with individuals that are very kind and loving, but really didn't know anything about money. And I watched what that environment can do. Yeah. Right? With lack of resources and the things that go along with that. And I had a couple experiences in my life where I just made this internal decision. And I don't know if this has been true for you in your life, where you're like, hey, this is unacceptable to me. And I don't know what the way is, but I'm going to either find the way or make the way. And that led me to bumping into real estate. And what was really interesting is that when I would do those personality profile tests, I'd always try to will them to come back like surgeon. Because I would look at the list and be like, who makes the most money? Yeah. And they would always come back salesperson. And I would always try to push it away and be like, no, like that's not what I want to do. Yeah. And I was actually at a talk. I went to school at the University of Florida, and there was a gentleman there who owned the largest gym in Gainesville. So he was a very wealthy individual. He had his own helicopter and, all the accoutrements of success. Yeah. And he was talking about a book called Think and Grow Rich, which, I'm sure a lot of people have read and the audience has read. And that was my first exposure to it. And what was true is that there was also this woman who was very attractive, who was an agent. And she was talking about like being an agent. So I was like, I'm in college. I'm like, hey, maybe that's what I should be doing is like becoming an agent. And that just vibed directly with those personality profile tests. Wow. And then I just happened to, do, well at it. And at the beginning, though, it wasn't like that. I made $13,000 my first calendar year. So not something people would put you on, the Wealthy Creator podcast to teach you how to do that. It's definitely not something people would pay you to coach them to teach you how to do that. I just had an inaccurate assessment of reality. I didn't understand like what the game was and what I should be focusing my time on. And once I got an accurate assessment, it's kind of off to the races. And in 2007, though, I was on track to do about 60 transactions, but my mom had a brain bleed. And in a very short period of time, she was young, she was like 27, I shut down my business immediately within a week, gave away all the listings, all the pendings, and I moved back home. And I started over from scratch. And what was really, I would prefer that didn't happen to my mom, obviously. At the same time, it gave me this internal kind of knowing, which was I had a particular skill set on how to list and sell property in high volume. And that gave me experientially a knowing I can do this anywhere if you just drop me anywhere. Yeah. So, and then, in that new place, it took me first year did 17, then 50, then 85, then 89, then 100. Did 100 a year for 10 years in a row, 200 deals a year twice. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Just crushed it after that.
Yeah. And it was really, I think at first, it was like selfish because it was about like showing people like I'm the man or I'm really good at this. And what it evolved into though, because I saw what it could do for others. So when my mom had that brain bleed, I was able to buy her condo and pay cash when I was 27 years old. Wow. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like this isn't about like flexing. This is about I can use this skill or ability to be able to serve other people and help them.
Yeah. So glad you said that because, I mean, you know, our mission here, even in the Pineda Company in the wealthy world, you know, it is to serve people, right? Yeah. Like that's what we want to do. We want to enrich communities. And you want to serve people. Yeah. And so hearing your testimony about how you're doing that is amazing. And I 1000% relate. One thing you said earlier before we even get into, you know, the real story, but I want to get into what you talked about, your personality test.
Yeah.
So we use what's called the predictive index for everybody that comes through here, right? And actually when I first started here and they had me take it, it was like my first time actually taking it. I took it at like 11:30 at night.
Real quick. Like,
I didn't care anything about what was going to happen because I kind of, you know, it's funny. In my mind, I was like, I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. Like, I'm about to just tell the truth on this thing and keep it moving. I didn't overthink it at all. And I came back a persuader.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's funny because I think that personality, I think I came back that way specifically because of my history, one in sports, but I've always been like the captain and the leader and the individual that was kind of like influencing my team. And so I think as a persuader, you know, especially, you know, high school, college, you have to do that, right? Like it's no question. High school, everybody's in there playing around. You have to be the one that kind of not only leads by example, but is able to talk on a level that anybody can understand to get them to do what we're trying to accomplish here. Now, our team was like fourth in the state for 2 years straight, right? And we battled with all of the top teams. So I found that to be like mission accomplished for me as I was ending. I was like, all right, I've lost a total of maybe, I think it was 11 games all 4 years. Yeah. All right. So I did pretty good. Then when I got to college, I was like, oh, I'm starting all over again. All right. And even still, it was like, all right, how can I, you know, get implemented in this new system and this around these new teammates. Some of them are 5th year seniors. So now you're an 18-year-old kid with grown men, right? Like you're trying to figure out how to, you know, really kind of make yourself a presence in a locker room that already is established. And one way of doing that was, you know, selling yourself to everybody else, letting them know who you are and what you have to offer. Yeah. And so it's funny, like you talked about that, like, you know, you were trying to think, what can I come back as? And you know what that made me do when I came back as a persuader? It made me go check and see what everybody else was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm like, all right, Ryan Pineda is successful, all right? And at the time, I didn't know him really. I just knew, like, I mean, I knew about the opportunity. I didn't know him. I'm like, let me check and see what he came back as, because if I'm anywhere near that, okay, I know.
I'm good.
Yeah, just follow the footsteps, right? Yeah. Like, and then I start checking everybody else, like that was in leadership roles around the company, and I'm like, okay, what are they like? Where did they fall on this predictive index? And then I'm like, how true is this thing anyway? So then I actually read it, and you know, it's so spot on,
accurate,
so accurate. Like it's unreal how accurate this thing is. And so, but yeah, I say all that to say, like you're 1000% right about going and being like, okay, I need to make sure I come back as, you know, a certain thing, but it does help. Not only it helped me with the confidence to be able to kind of step out and be a leader in positions that I never, like I had no experience in media, right? Like it wasn't a real thing for me. Like I didn't look at this like this was going to be my career when I was playing ball and when I was doing other things. Like that wasn't in the plan. I just had fun doing it on the side, kind of a side hustle if I could make some money. And so I'm saying all that to say, like you're like, I can totally relate to how you were like, all right, what am I coming back as? It didn't fit what you thought of yourself.
Yeah, and I think what's true is that you can only behave in accordance with the way you see yourself.
Yeah.
That's like, and what's interesting to me about that is, and that applies to social too, because some people say like, oh, I don't do that. That's not my thing. But what they're basically saying to you is that I don't see myself that way.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, how do I work on self-image? Now, part of it is data. So if you take like the predictive index and you know you're a persuader or a captain or a maverick, or, you know, whatever your profile is, that helps you to get clarity between the difference between the way I think I am or the way I actually am. Right. So I had a coaching client recently and he's like, hey man, I think that you see me different than I am. I said, that's quite possible. What's also possible, because people pay me to see what's true, is that I see you the way you actually are, not the way you think you are.
Not the way you see yourself, right?
Not the way you see yourself or the way you would like to be perceived.
Yeah.
So by knowing who you are as a person. Like, I know that I'm highly competitive. We probably share that. I know that my need for dominance is high. I know that I want to be put in situations where I can compete and get significance for competing.
Yeah.
So if you know that about yourself, then you can position yourself in situations that you can let your gift out. And what's also true is let's say I know you're a persuader, now as a leader, that helps me because now I know how to interact with you.
Exactly.
I know how to inspire you. I know how to kind of push buttons a little bit because you're competitive.
Yeah.
So I could be like, hey, bro, where you at? And then you're like, what? And then you want, right?
Yeah, then you going after it. Yeah. I mean, it truly is like, and this is for anybody that's listening or watching who is operating a business and not using some type of personality test when they do their hiring, when they, like, even if you already have the established business, go back and make everybody take this test.
Yeah.
Not only does it help you hire, but also helps you with how you manage each individual.
100%.
Right? Like, Ryan knows that if he comes to me and goes, the numbers ain't really doing what they should be doing, that I'm up all night.
Yeah, you're like, excuse me?
Like, he knows that, right? Like, he doesn't, and for the most of the time, you don't have to tell me because I'm seeing it too, right? Like, I'm trying to figure out why something isn't working. And so, but it is true. Like, you can implement those things in your business that help you work while also using it to operate in your own system.
Exactly. And what I think is so awesome is that we were talking about this off camera. If we go back to, you can only behave in accordance with the way you see yourself. What's so beautiful about this kind of journey that both of us have been on at the same time, where your tendency in the past was to be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And somebody had to cast a vision, Ryan probably, of, hey, you can do this. This is a role you can step into. But at that time, you didn't see yourself that way. Yeah. And even now what's happening, we were talking like on our last call, and you're like, bro, people are coming up to me and it's weird.
Yeah.
But what's happening is the new version, the new way you see yourself is clashing with the old. And I think with every evolution, I do believe that business is not a material journey. I think it's a spiritual one.
Yeah.
And our comfort keeps us from our calling. So there's something that comes right up to it. And it's like, yo, this is really uncomfortable for me. I don't do that's not who I am.
Yeah.
But as you step into that, because you can only behave in accordance with the way you see yourself, as you start to see that more and more, then you behave as that individual. And then that just happens and it's normal for you and it's not a big deal.
Yeah. And I'm, like you said, we're going through it now, right? Like it was one of those things where you have the opportunity to level up in a way.
Yeah.
Right. And you've been working for the level up, but you haven't been like clear on what that even means or what that like will bring to you. Right. Like you understand, yes, scaling my business is important. I'm going to do everything I need to do to scale the business. Right. Like you understand that. You get on social media, you're like, okay, I'm trying to drive leads.
Yeah.
I'm trying to grow influence.
Yeah.
I'm trying to grow my downline. I'm trying to, like, there's all these things that come with why you are putting out content. And then there's the moment of, oh no, they're seeing me differently now.
Yeah.
And now I have a responsibility.
Yes.
And I almost owe it to them to give out what is due, right? Like to give them everything that I have, because again, we're coming from the place of I want to serve people.
100%. So the reason I got all excited is I was having a conversation with a member of our team. She's part of our organization, Elite Builders at EXP. And I see her as like a commander. Like she can build and help a lot of people. And she told me a story 3 years ago while we were having dinner. And I said to her out loud, you need to tell that story more often.
Yeah.
But you know what her first response was? I'm not comfortable because I have shame about it. And I'm like, well, instead of having shame, you should be proud of what you've been through. And a lot of people would benefit from that.
Yeah. Do
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think there's a difference between a plan, a strategy. So a plan is like, hey, I want to do this on social. I want to have 10K. I want to do whatever. A strategy is, how am I going to do that? Which you guys can help with.
All right.
More importantly, why? So what I'm aware of, the reason why we're here doing all this is because I know, I was telling my wife this the other day, is there a small part of me that digs it when people recognize me? Sure, I'm human.
You're right. Yeah,
The flesh is weak. Like, of course I'm going to be like, oh, that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
More importantly though, I know that as I get more attention, that helps other people grow. That's what I'm aware of. So that's the driving force behind it. And I think a lot of people, it's just my experience, they're just doing content. They're copying other people in hopes that they can get something that they can get followers from.
Yeah.
And I think that's completely the wrong way to do it. Instead, I think if you're authentic about what you believe, you will pull people towards you, but you will also become polarizing. You will push people away that aren't into your vibe, right? So me and you were talking about, it's about serving people, helping people. There's a whole segment of the business community. It's like, that's lame, dude. This is about making money. It's bottom line, it's profit. So those aren't our people. Right. And that's cool.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. No, 1000%. Like I'm not here to be a people pleaser. Like that's not why I'm doing this, right? Like that's not why I have taken the opportunity to step in front of the camera and speak about what I know. That's not why, right? Like when you talk about serving, you do it without the expectation of what the return is. I really want to see you win, right? Like I'm willing to spend hours of my week with you because I really want to see where this goes and how far you can take it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, right? Like I don't believe that the ego boost that you get from someone knowing you is more valuable than what you offer in that moment. And here's what I mean by that. I have found myself, after realizing that people are recognizing me for what I've done and been able to do with Ryan, people are recognizing me, but I need to be ready to give them something to take away.
Yeah.
Right? The hi, it's me. Hi. Like that's not giving anymore.
It's not even, that's not an exchange of value.
And so now my focus now is on, okay, when that individual asks me something, will I have a real answer for them? Something tactical that they can apply right away. Right. And I'm constantly thinking that, okay, I can see people sometimes standing off to the side. It's me and Ryan standing there. We were at an event last week and they're standing, and I know they're trying to get to Ryan.
Yeah.
Right. And you almost want to say, just come on.
Just come on.
Like, just come on. Let's get it done. Right. But you wait for them to take their opportunity. Sometimes they take it. Sometimes they don't. All right. And I'm like, oh, you missed out because that was the moment for you. Right. You're probably never going to get him by himself and steal again.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, take the moment. And then the videographer comes up to me. He's like, oh, I recognize you from da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah, cool. And as I'm talking, I'm like, he's not coming because of just my nice video. Right. Like he sees value. So what value can I give in order, like, for him to walk away with feeling like, they're the real, like he's real. Like he's not just one of these guys up here talking and being an imposter. He's actually trying to help people. And so I think for anybody that is having that experience, right? Because I tell everybody's an influencer. Yeah. No matter where you're at, you're an influencer, right? Like somehow you influence your home, your family, your friends. Like you have some type of influence. Are you really giving them value though? Are you making yourself more valuable by giving out the value? Yeah. Right. And so it's like those moments I'm like, make sure, Justin, you actually have something to say. Right. Like it's cool. Like, it's me. It's not okay. It's just not enough for me.
It's not.
You know what I mean? And so I'm finding myself there over and over again. Okay. What information can I share with them that will help them take whatever they're doing to the next level?
Yeah. And what is true for me as I hear you say that means like you are, you're equipped to be a leader. Because you're thinking to yourself instead of the value of this is the boost of ego. It's not like, if you recognize me, that's cool, but I want to be able to exchange value with you. Like I was telling my wife this the other day, before I go on stage or before I do a talk, it's more like, hey, listen, like, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for the ability to be able to share something that could be positive or helpful in some way. So give me the strength. Give me the emotional intelligence. Give me the intellectual intelligence. Give me the recall. Give me the sense of humor. Give me the enthusiasm to be able to pour out so I can help somebody in a positive way. And reminding myself, it's not me. It comes through me. Right. And this isn't for me. It is for you, right? And it's for them. And like, amen. And then you go do your thing. And I think if you do that, it creates like a shield, a protective shield. Where it's so easy for that to go straight to your head. Yeah. And, start to make it about you. Yeah. Yeah. You have to know that it's not you, right? Like if you're truly walking in a calling, it's not you that's even doing it, right? Like what you're saying isn't coming from you, right? Like you're doing everything to exercise the muscle, but it's a calling. Yeah. So you have to be aware of that and know that. And I'm aware, man. Like I'm telling you, like I don't take anything that I've experienced in the last 6 months, 7 months for granted. Yeah. Because I understand that this is the beginning. Yes. And I know where things can go. Yeah. Right. Like I've actually been a part of so many different situations that have seen growth, an individual grow now, that I'm like, okay, Justin, if this is something that he's calling you to,
you got to do everything you can to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
And that's just where it's at. But enough about me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Aaron.
Yeah.
You said you did a 13K year.
Yes.
And then 100 plus transactions.
Yeah. 5 years later.
5 years later.
Yeah.
Tell me what contributed to that type of growth
Yep.
in that short amount of time.
So one was, I read in retrospect, I didn't know this at the time, but there was a book by Ray Dalio called Principles. And in that book, he says you need an accurate assessment of reality in order to produce a good outcome. Now, when he said that at the time, I'm like, hey, that's cute. Like, that's kind of clever. You know what I mean? But the more I marinated on that, the more I was like, wow, that's really true. Not the way I think it is or the way social tells me it is, but the way it actually is. And he also had this formula that a dream plus dealing with reality plus determination equals a successful life.
That's good.
What's interesting about that is if you ask yourself a question, which part of that formula is actually the most challenging? It's like, was it a dream? No, everybody's got a dream.
Everybody's got a dream.
Is it determination? People have various degrees of determination. It's the dealing with reality piece. That's the hardest because then I have to admit to myself, I'm not as fast as I thought I was, as quick as I thought I was, as smart I thought as I was, as cool as I thought as I was.
Yeah.
And that for some people is so uncomfortable that they shut down, right? So the accurate assessment reality that I then acquired was, hey, the money's not in the service. The money's in the selling of the service. So like, that doesn't mean we don't give people good service.
Right.
That's expected. Like in real estate, they expect you to know how to read a contract. They expect you to know what you're talking about. They expect you to know how to negotiate. What I tell people all the time is like, do you jump up and down when you walk into Whole Foods and they have groceries? Like, no, that's the expectation.
Right.
They're going to have groceries there. You're not like, oh my God, guys, this is dope. You got groceries today. Where the money's at, though, is learning how to sell the service. See, I spent that full year stacking my time on things that weren't actually the thing. I didn't know what the thing was. So once I got that accurate assessment, I was like, oh, that's what's true. So then I got obsessed with learning how to sell the service. So I role played twice a day, 6 days a week for 3 years. I would hand write out scripts by hand.
Wow.
Right? Because in real estate, the conversation, well, the people change, the situations change, the houses change. The conversation never changes. It's always the same. Like, you know, my friend's an agent. Will you cut your commission? Never heard of your company. Like it's over and over again. And in the real estate business, there's only opportunities. There's no security. And I'm very motivated by security, right? Particularly coming from a family where they didn't have a lot of resources. So what I realized is like, if I get my skills to such a degree that if there is an opportunity, there's an 85% chance I'll be able to take advantage of that opportunity. I've just created security for myself and my family. So I got maniacal around practice. I would record myself doing presentations. I would record role playing, right? And I sought out role play partners that were doing like 200 transactions and I'm doing like a little, right? And pestered them and, you know, bothered them to get into their schedules. So that was the first accurate assessment of reality. The second accurate assessment of reality is that you can only grow to the proportion that your systems will allow you to. So I don't care how much motivation you do. I don't care how much rah-rah you go to. I don't care how much you go to these, like, you know, all these speakers that'll even be at WealthCon and they're like motivating. Bro, if you don't have systems in place, you will plateau. You will not grow. So with that recognition, we started to build a team around being able to process deals. Because most agents, what happens is they might get good at the soft skill, but they get capped out at like 3 to 4 transactions a month because they're doing everything behind the scenes.
Gotcha.
So we created systems really with the help of my wife because she's the operations manager. She's a specialist on the profile. So she's perfect for that. Analytical by nature. And that allowed me to just throw stuff over my shoulder. So all I focused on is what I call PLAN, prospect, lead, follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate deals. So we became a conveyor belt for listings where I could take 10, 15 listings personally per month, throw them over my shoulder and keep it moving.
Going. Wow.
Yeah. So those two accurate assessments are really what allowed us to get to that place.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. That every time I hear a success story about how they scaled or how they improved their business, it always starts with developing a system.
Yeah.
And every time I hear about that, there's usually a woman behind it.
Yeah. You know what's fascinating about that? I don't know if you know this, but Mr. Wonderful, he said he only invests on Shark Tank with women.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know why he said why?
Why?
One is they're better allocators of resources.
Okay.
And two, they have smaller egos.
Yeah. Well,
I was like, wow, dude, that's pretty insightful. Because yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah.
And what's true about that, Justin, I find that so fascinating that you notice that all of my team is women.
Yeah.
They're all like the onboarding specialist is a woman, like Carla, like all the team that does the behind the scenes.
I mean, I'm seeing it over and over again. I mean, I'm seeing it in our own system, right? Like in our own company, where a lot of the men that you see, there might be some faces that you might recognize, and they may be up speaking, and they may be doing, and but a lot of the really gritty work that needs to get done that's like time consuming, but also it has to be time efficient.
Yeah.
They're there. The women are there, and they're just really good at it. I always tell my wife, like, you're smarter than me in every way. Like I don't have an argument for what you're saying.
No, and
right?
I think that they have the capacity. I think by nature, men are very singularly focused, and women have the capacity to have their attention or awareness in multiple places at one time.
Yep.
So they could be like, talking to the kids, cooking something, like watching what's on TV, talking to you, like all at the same time, where we're like, nah, dude, I need like one thing.
No, 1,000%. 1,000%. So, I mean, how important has, creating the content been to the growth of the business?
Yeah. So I heard something recently that was very true for me, was that if you are not good at marketing, you have to become a world-class salesperson. So that's what I did, because I had a kind of like a mentor in my life that had a lot of influence over thinking. And he was saying that that's stupid and dumb and you shouldn't do it. That you should just focus on beating the bushes, pounding, dialing, smile dial, make a pile, that sort of thing. And I didn't focus on brand building. And it wasn't until recently, like as I made this transition, I used to own part of a KW office. I sold it back in order to participate with EXP.
Okay.
And I recognized about a year ago, right before we got involved, patterns. So patterns, like Tony Robbins says, like if you want to create outcomes that are favorable, it's based on the quality of your choices. But how many people actually work at being a good decision maker? Like nobody.
Right.
We naturally think we're great at making decisions. But if you look at people's outcomes, they're not. And part of decision making is pattern recognition. So it's recognizing patterns, but then using the patterns.
Yep.
So one of the patterns that I was watching, I'm watching all of these individuals use media, because I don't believe it's social anymore. They say that, but they're all doing it wrong, because they're all taking pictures of themselves cooking or eating or on vacation. And what they don't realize is that the saturation of content on platforms is at like an all-time high. So more content will be put on Instagram today than in human history.
Right.
And tomorrow will be the same.
Right.
So when that happens, then from a supply and demand perspective, what becomes more valuable and more sought after is quality of what's being said, not pictures of your food at your mom's house eating dinner, and also production quality. So I'm watching these patterns, and I'm watching the Paul brothers use attention to create Prime and become a billionaire. It's like, wait a minute. I'm watching the Kardashians use attention to create Skims and become billionaires. I'm watching Mr. Beast use attention. Now, you know what he said on an interview recently? They're like, why'd you choose chocolate? He's like, there were two companies. They're both 100 years old. It's just kind of easy. And then you know what he said? It's really easy. I just put it on the shelves and people buy it.
That's it. Yeah.
Because he has what I don't think people realize is that what media is distribution.
Yeah.
So if you ask a question like, what's more difficult, creating a product or distributing it?
All right.
It's distribution.
Yeah.
So when I noticed this pattern, I said to my team, because if we want to, I told Carter, like what we're really doing is like a ministry. The more people that we can bring into it, the more we can love on them and help them.
Yep.
And the vision is to grow to thousands of agents. Like we've grown to 194 in 16 months.
Wow.
But the vision is to go to thousands. And I said to Carla, I'm like, I don't really understand this. I see the pattern. I see the tsunami, the wave,
right.
but I don't really know. I don't know what the platforms are for.
Yeah.
I don't know how to use them. And before this, it was pictures of my wife posting pictures of our kids. Like I really didn't know. So then I asked Jose, who's my business partner, and he's in the Collective Genius.
Okay.
And I said to Jose, hey bro, who does social media the best? Who makes the most money? And he was like, yeah, there's a couple guys that have courses. Nobody makes more money than Ryan.
Yeah.
Like nobody, period, end of story, hands down. So that was like, okay, that's who I need to get proximity to.
Yeah.
And that's what made me reach out to you guys and then learn. We also brought like a media team, the ones who do the editing and posting for us, where they could be on calls with us. So we're just like, if our bodies are the hardware, our brains are the software. So we're just sucking out the software.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, like show us how to do this.
Yeah.
And very quickly, what's been happening now is that with attention, money and power follow attention, and then attention follows money and power.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a virtuous loop. Like Grant Cardone is the one who said that, and it's totally accurate. So now what I see is this is a land grab, because the barrier to entry now, like we're here at your guys' facility and this is dope.
Yeah.
I asked you I'm like, yo, how much did the room cost to set up? You're like $100,000. How much does this cost, right? So the barrier to entry for like small business owners now, I think is $2,000 to $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
Like editing, posting, if you're serious.
Yeah.
Because if you don't want to post stuff that just like your family members watch, you need help.
Yeah.
So that's the barrier. I believe in the next 3 to 5 years, it'll be $10,000 a month because that supply and demand, it'll just keep getting higher. Better quality production, right?
Yeah, and if you're trying to compete with us,
right,
you're gonna spend $50K a month.
You know what's funny is I did an event for our a local event. We do socials.
Yep.
And there's a guy who owns a title company, and he was talking to me about like media, and he sees what I'm doing or whatever. And I was like, bro, you post like once a day. You can't keep up with me, dude.
Yeah,
I'm like 3 or 4 times a day on all channels.
It just
like it's not even close.
You have to look at it like old marketing too. Right? Old marketing, you pay for a billboard and everybody that drives past it gets to see your advertisement. Right? We don't know how many cars drive past it on a daily. We definitely don't know how many respond to it. Right? But I can say if we actually look at the numbers on how many people drive this highway every day, I can tell you how many eyeballs got. And what that means to me is you will never be able to do that and compete with me on the digital side.
Right.
So, all right, no more billboards. We're in a new wave of this marketing, right? Now it goes, I can post out once or twice a week. One of those videos maybe gets 1,000 views. Maybe if we're lucky. Yeah, if we're lucky. And then maybe one goes off and hits 1 million. All right. Why wouldn't I keep posting multiple times a day?
100%.
If that's the case, right? Maybe in a million we can convert at 5%. We'll be doing really good.
Real good.
We convert at 2%.
We're still happy.
We're still winning, right? And so it's like, when you look at it that way, what are you willing to spend? And that's why I tell anybody that comes in and is like interested but unsure.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what you're willing to spend will tell me whether or not you really want to scale the company.
And how sold you are on this pattern.
Because you have to believe it.
Yeah. Because you can't come to it and be like, you know, with agents that I'll coach and I'll tell them like, hey, this is the way. Like the Mandalorian. I'm like, this is the way. And they're like, ah. And the main things they say is like, well, how do I know that if I spend this, that I'll get this many deals? And I'm like, look, you can't think about it that way. Like you're building a brand, and a brand is something that you spend time, energy, effort, and resources over an extended period of time. So the way I see what's happening in real estate right now is that, you know, there's this, there's a lawsuit that's happening around commissions, and there's a super high degree of probability. I don't know, but more likely than not, the way agents get compensated is going to change. Yeah. And now buyers agents are going to have to negotiate with buyers.
Yeah.
And let me ask you a question. If you have a brand where you are known as someone who does deals and knows what they're doing, is that going to help you as time progresses? Like 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
So you have to be sold long-term that what I shared and what Grant says is that money and power follow attention. If it's not worth doing for 10 years, it's not worth doing for 10 minutes.
Why are we doing it? Yeah.
Why are we doing it?
Why are we doing it?
So you have to be like committed to it. And then you can kind of figure out as time progresses how to monetize attention. So what I don't think people realize, and one of the things I learned from you, like with all of this production and everything that you guys do, you've shared with me candidly, like the money that you receive from the social or from the media, it just goes back into all of this, like the operations.
Yeah, it's paying for itself.
The goal and objective is not, he asked me at the thing, he's like, how much money are you making from that? I'm like, bro, you're talking about checkers and I'm playing chess. Yeah. Like what I'm doing is I'm using attention to grow my businesses.
Yeah, people aren't ready to truly invest in themselves the way they say they are.
Yeah.
Right? You don't think that you can actually do this yet because somebody that believes that they can't actually use the power of influence to grow their business, they won't question whether or not this $3,500 a month is worth it.
Yeah. And what I would propose is for those individuals, if they're watching this or considering or thinking about, just look at the patterns.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And if you use, so it takes it away from, I don't have to even believe in myself, just believe in the pattern.
Right.
Look at what's happening.
All right.
And then I just have to ask myself a question like, am I going to participate or am I going to sit back and use excuses, which are tools for the incompetent, built upon mountains of nothingness, and those who use them seldom succeed?
Yep.
Am I just going to make these excuses like, yo, that's not for me, it's not what I do, it's not my thing, and then look back 5 years from now and be like, bro, I wish I would have spent more time on that.
Every creator's like when you ask them what are they glad they did in their business,
Yeah.
they always say, I'm glad I started.
Yeah.
This is what they say.
Yeah.
Right? I'm so glad that you ask Ryan right now, what was the best thing he did for his business? He's going to say TikTok,
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm glad I started that. Right? And you got to think too, and this is what people, I don't think they're fully understanding, because he's only been doing it 3 years.
It's really not that long. And it's
only been 3
unbelievable the
years.
size that it's turned into.
It's only been 3 years. And this isn't luck, right? Like he wasn't like, oh, I got a viral video and now I'm famous, right? Because those individuals do exist, right? Somebody goes viral and then everybody knows them.
Yeah.
But they usually just have a moment, right? It's a season that they're really big, and then they're trying to figure out how to monetize the rest of it. His was business already kind of happening. Mm-hmm. I need to figure out how to scale it. This is going to be one way to do it. And consistently, no matter what the number said, right? Like I'm the Wealthy Creator podcast is not a big podcast as we're filming it.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not what I'm planning for.
No.
All right. It's not it. Right. And even when it comes to the content, like, we talk numbers all the time on all of our calls.
Yep.
And I'm like, it's okay. Like, cause I want people to see, they need to change what they're viewing too. Right. You're viewing the numbers and going, I'm not getting a result. But I guarantee you, if you had 20 people, them 20 views that you got, and you took those 20 people and you put them in a room with us, and you had the opportunity to sell them, you'll be ecstatic about having 20 people 100%. In the room. Yeah. Had somebody on one of our calls the other day, I was like, I saw one of your videos did well. And they was like shocked that I said that. And he usually, he just started, so he's getting like 15, 16 views. 3 of them are probably him on different accounts, right? But he had like 250 views on a video. Hmm? He only has like 60 followers. Right? He's really early in this game. And I was like, you got 250 views on this video? And he was like, yeah, I guess so. He's like, are you trying to be nice? And I'm like, no. I said, picture yourself with 250 people in a room and you're on stage.
That's right. Yeah. So, and I don't think people understand the enormity of that. So like so a couple things came up for me as I hear you speaking. One is once I figure out the pattern, once I know what needs to be done, the awesome part is now it's just an equation. It's V over T.
Yep.
Volume over time.
Yep.
So then it's just a matter of time. I'm not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. So after 10 months of doing what we're doing, I've had some videos get 70, 50,000. We just had one that got 250,000.
250, yep.
But that's after 10 months of 3 a day, 7 days a week, right? Like I have no idea when that's going to happen. So that's the first thing that comes up for me. The second is the scale and the scope. So if you think about it, that 250,000, that is 4 football stadiums, legit football stadiums filled with humans like this.
Yeah. Watching you. Yep.
That's unbelievable.
Yep.
Right. And the fact that the cost for that, when people are like, man, 3,000 is a lot. It's like, nah, dude, it's
not a lot.
That's cheap. Yeah. And check back with me in 5 years because it's going to be 10,000 or 15,000.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like I don't even try to convince people anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're here in front of me and you found us because of something we posted on social media. Yeah, it's like, look at the mechanism. That's how you found me. Like I'm not gonna try to convince you and make you believe in yourself. Like you have to do that. You have to figure that out. But I can tell you that this works.
Period.
That's it. And so it's no different. And that's why like watching what you're doing, watching what the team is doing, like having those conversations. And I'm watching people that are eager to learn too. And that's when I know like, okay, they're going to be okay even after we're done doing these. Like they're going to be okay. Right. And so it's like watching you do this and scale and getting these views, the following's growing. I think when we started, you were at 2-3K or somewhere in there. And now you're up over
15.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 3-4 weeks ago you were at 10?
Yes.
right? Like, I mean, like, so you're seeing the impact of the growth, right? And so as that starts to happen, it's going to continue to happen with the consistency. And I'm gonna come see you one day, and you're gonna be like, let me show you my studio.
Yeah.
Let me show, because all of that is just it's necessary to what it takes.
It'll be the same, brother, because what'll happen is you'll be on stage with 1 million.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, hey, Jay, do you remember we used to be on calls?
That's how
and
it
you
goes.
had like 2,000, 3,000. That's what it'll be.
I'm telling you, man, like it's going to be amazing to see. It's going to be amazing. Tell me a little bit about Elite Builders, though. Like, go into the branding, the concept, and why you chose what you chose as far as that marketing.
Yeah. So I became aware that people come for the money, but they stay for the relationships. And what I also became aware of is that creating a culture, I think our society has become very kind of distanced. Mm-hmm. And they become less secular, so they get it less from there. Neighbors don't. You could live next to your neighbor for like 10 years, never talk to them.
No idea. Yep.
Like no idea who they are. So I think everybody's starving for a sense of belonging and wanting to belong in a certain place. So when me and Jose got together and we started talking about this, you know, my coaching company is Elite Coaching. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, Elite Builders, because Builders is a name that's thrown around EXP, like being a builder. Mm-hmm. And then I began to realize that things like catchphrases create culture. So ours, like on every text, I'm like, let's go, let's grow. Yeah. Right? Or Elite Builders coast to coast. So I'm casting like this vision. Mm-hmm. And then I created a Shopify store. So then we can create swag on demand for events, for whatever it is that we're doing, because we read a book on creating culture and there's direct correlations, scientific, quantifiable, measurable, that with a sense of belonging, people are excited to be there, and it leads to retention. Mm-hmm. Because again, people come for the money, but they stay for the relationships. So, and I noticed when I looked at it, because again, I view this as like a ministry, how many people we can help, and I want to help as many as possible, that the biggest builders have a brand of some sort. So that's why the vision. So now part of onboarding is when you partner with us, we send you a hat, we send you a shirt. Okay. So now you feel like a part of the tribe and a part of what we're doing. Also with our monthly meetings that we have. You know, a brand is about people know what to expect. So like Nike shouldn't open up a sandwich shop. That's not their thing. I wouldn't know what to expect. Right. But if I go into a Nike hotel, I probably know what to expect. Yeah. Right. So it's about creating an environment for people where they know what to expect. So in that book, it was saying, hey, part of the reason you do these events is to educate, but the other is for people to socialize. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting. Like Jonathan was telling me, like, you guys eat together. You know what I mean? And you sit down, and like that's part of it. Yeah. Creating culture. Yeah. So, you know, we're very intentional about that. So we have like, you know, there's music that's playing. And it's a certain type of music, right? And the vibe is like, it's not gonna be a stuffy, kind of boring meeting, right? And me as a presenter, I show up and I present in a certain way. Yeah. Right? So all of that is so that way people can know, hey, this is what they stand for. This is who they are. Mm-hmm.
You know, here's the psychology behind like community. Yeah. All your life, you've been wanting to be a part of a community. Yeah. Right. I can remember being young and not old enough yet to play Pee Wee football. Yeah. And watching all the other kids in their jerseys, walking with their helmet. I never really wanted to play football. All right. I was basketball. I played basketball my entire life. But just the fact that they were able to walk around with their stuff, I wanted to be a part of that. Yeah. And it's no different in every other level, right? Like our community, what we want is for all of our community to collaborate. Mm-hmm. Right? Hey, Aaron, here's a contact. Reach out because you're in Vegas today. I'm going to send you, they can run a podcast with you over there too. Mm-hmm. More content for you, connection for them. Mm-hmm. I got an agent. He's also EXP. Mm-hmm. It might be good for you all to get together. And like, these are all things like that in connection. I just want to build and grow the community. Mm-hmm. Right? So I say that to say the psychology behind it is, have you created something that people want to be a part of? Yeah. And then when they are, do they actually feel a part of it?
That's right. Yeah. And I think you have to be intentional, purposeful, right, about that. One of the things we're doing too is at the end of this year, we're doing a gala. Mm-hmm. So everybody's flying in. Oh, everybody's invited. Yeah. We pay for it. It's a black tie, like James Bond kind of gala. It's fun. Nice. We do a pool party at, the next day, but we also have incredible speakers that are coming in to talk to us. Me and Jose will do a talk as well. So that my vision is that will become thousands of agents.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's all of that create. So what I've learned is because EXP, the brokerage in the cloud, I've learned that you can do culture remote. You have to mix it with physical. It can't just be remote. So if you're thinking high tech, but not high touch, that's a problem because it's people business.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, I see agents get lost in like, well, I'm gonna do a CRM and I'm gonna drip on them and all this other stuff for attraction. I'm like, dude, if you're not doing high touch, it's not gonna work.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to physically be with the people, hug hands, hold hands, hug babies. Like,
no, 1000%. I mean, why do we do wealth cons? Like, who else throws a 1,000-person event plus, 1,000 people plus 4 times a year?
Yeah. It's community.
You're touching the people.
It's like, you know what it is? It's like a sales meeting 4 times a year.
Yeah.
It's really what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like we get together as a group.
Yep. And that's what Ryan just implemented recently in this last quarter, morning meetings for everyone. All right. Now, for me, I got a team of 8 underneath me that are a part of our content team. I need them to work. I don't really want to spend the time talking to them every single morning because we talk so much throughout the day. We're in communication all day long. So I was like, oh man, every morning. And then he called me on a Saturday before he was implementing and was like, let me explain to you what it is we're doing and why we're doing this. And it totally clicked for me. I was like, I totally get it. He was like, you're going to start your meeting with everyone telling you something that they're grateful for. And then you're going to go over what our wins were and how we're going to get better for the week and everything that we need to accomplish. Yeah. And then after that, you're going to close them with a prayer.
Yeah, it's dope.
But I can already feel the culture shifting amongst the team where it's not just transactional where I do this, I get paid. Anymore. Now there's actual community that feels more like family. And
it feels like they're a part of something that's bigger than themselves.
Yep. And we got virtual people too, right? And so that was the first thing. I asked them, I go, how do you all feel about doing these meetings every morning? Right? Because I also know like when you're working remote or you're a virtual 1099 employee with us, you probably got other clients too, right?
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure.
I'm not supposed to know it, but I know you do, right? I know you're not spending 8 hours or more every single day batching out our videos. Like I just know that, right? Because I know what I would do. I'd have 10 clients if I could work remote. So it's like, all right, how do you feel about it? And they were all like, you know what? I love it because I'm able not only to put faces to everybody, but I don't know what's going on and all the exciting things that you all are experiencing in the company until I see the video.
Yes. And I think what's interesting about the culture thing, what I'm learning is that if you take 2, let's say founders of companies, one has like just maybe a little bit above level intelligence, not off the charts, just a little bit. They understand the culture piece though, and they understand leadership. They will have access to the collective intelligence of everyone. If you take another leader who's off the charts brilliant, doesn't understand the culture thing, they are limited in their ability to access everybody's intelligence. So that company will actually do worse. Than the other one. So that's why, but I think as CEOs or as kind of leaders, the easier thing is to go with the analytical part of the mind because it's easier. It's metrics. I can measure it. It's data. Soft skills they're squishy, bro. That's me sitting down with Justin and be like, hey bro, are you all right? Everything good? Or, you know what I mean? And that's not as quantifiable.
Right.
So the tendency is to poo-poo those and only focus on what's measurable and quantifiable.
Yeah. I mean, I told Ryan, I said, these meetings are the Dennis Rodman of the team. It doesn't show up on every stat, but everything that we're doing here is mattering on what happens at the end.
Sure.
Right? Like, we don't necessarily, like our views don't go up because we do morning meetings.
No.
Right? But what does get better is the ideas are generated. The process gets better. All of the mistakes that we make weekly, they all get ironed. Like those are all things that are really like that matter more to the process that we're running than anything else.
Yeah.
All right. Like my job is to make sure that we make less mistakes and that we grow.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the whole goal of what I'm trying to achieve here. And now I get to talk every morning with other people that see other perspectives on how we can do that.
Yes. And I think too, as far as leadership is concerned, my job as a leader is to know what you dream about. Because if I know what you dream about and I know what your dream is, then my job is to help you to make it happen.
Yeah.
So I think most CEOs think transactionally. which is like, okay, like you work here and we make money and that's it. If you can start to make a shift in not thinking that they work for you, but you work for them.
Yeah.
And if I know what your dream is, like we have this one guy who told me his dream is to be on a farm with his kids. I think that's dope.
Yeah.
So now my job is to help him to do that. Now that may require me helping him to overcome insecurities about being on camera. It may require me equipping him with what he needs to learn to present to people.
Mm-hmm.
It may require me flying up to him the first time he does it and hold his hand. Your big brother's here, bro. I'll walk you through this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it requires all of that to get him to a place where now he can lead and he can make his dream come true.
Yeah.
Now he might. So I was telling Jose this, that the thing that I'm greedy for is for my name to be in somebody else's testimony.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a leader, it's like, you're like, yeah, these meetings, like whatever. But at the same time, it's like, wait a minute. Like if I know what everybody dreams about, I know what they cry about, I know what they think their strengths are.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can cast a vision where now Justin can see his dream existing inside what we're doing.
Right.
And then he knows that I care about him and I'm trying to help him make that happen.
Yeah. No, 1,000%. 1,000%. Let me ask you though, Aaron, what are some things you're seeing from agents right now that they're failing at? We know we know how the market is. We understand the landscape of everything, but where are they failing most when it comes to them trying to really grow and
That's a really
be
good
efficient?
question. So I think a fewfold. I think one is if you were to ask agents if 2008 to let's say like 10 was a good time to sell real estate, depends on who you ask.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask people that were using traditional methods, they would say it was terrible. It was the worst time to sell real estate.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to ask people that were doing REOs and working with investors, like foreclosures and investors, they were like, I made more money than I ever made in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is that every business has seasons. There's seasons in nature, right? Winter, spring, summer, fall. And each one of those seasons have a particular strategy that's attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So if me and you were to go to, let's say like the beach, we know the strategy for that. You want to bring a towel, probably some sunscreen, maybe something to listen to, maybe like a sandwich, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know what the strategy is. Now, if we were to use that strategy when we went skiing, what would happen?
Not gonna work.
Not gonna work. And I'm not gonna be very happy, right?
Yeah.
So I think what I see happening is people utilizing strategies that were appropriate during a specific time that are no longer accurate. So 90% of homeowners have mortgages that are less than 6%. 65% of them have less than 4%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's leading to a shortage of inventory, right? So agents' issue right now is not buyers, it's inventory.
Yeah.
They're using those traditional methods. So they're like, oh, expires for sale by owners, this sort of thing, right? And what I'm aware of is those aren't terrible sources. I did 100 deals one year and 75 were expireds. Now people hear that now and they're like, how is that even possible? They don't recognize that during that season in 2010, there was like 250 to 300 expireds a day.
Mm-hmm.
I would set 3 appointments, cancel 2 because they were underwater and go on 1. So that was an appropriate strategy for that season.
Right.
If I tried to do that now, it wouldn't work because there's like 3 expireds a day. So thinking, okay, who actually is going to sell their property now? They're only people that have to.
Mm-hmm.
So what would that be? Life events, death, divorce, job relocation, moving to assisted living facilities, retirement. And a lot of this information is public information.
Mm-hmm.
And starting to think like, Jose, he started to hang around with people, the collective genius, and he started hanging around wholesalers. And it's like agents abide by rules that don't exist. They don't think like wholesalers. And wholesalers they call 15, 20 lists.
Yeah. So
what agents should be doing now is precisely that, is probate. When I was selling real estate in high volume, 50% of my business was probate.
Okay.
Because I live in heaven's waiting room.
Yeah.
We have the largest elderly population in the country.
Yeah.
And 65% of those homes are free and clear. And if they want to sell, super high motivated.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would call like a blue ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Red oceans, there's a lot of sharks in the water and lots of blood. Blue oceans, there's not.
Right.
Now I'm a great white. I can get into the red ocean, push around and get my unfair share, but I'd much rather swim in the blue.
Yeah.
Much rather, it's easier. So focusing on areas like you can pull lists that are public information.
Mm-hmm.
You can pull lists that are people that are 90 days behind on payments, people that have citations on their home, right? That have a daily thing that's clicking, people that are 60 years or older that have been in their home for 10 or 15 years. Why? Because the probability that they have a life event is high. They're getting older, there's stairs, I don't want to walk up and down,
Mm-hmm.
I'm moving to be closer to my family. It's just higher probabilities.
Yeah.
So what I see is that if people were to shift to those strategies, they would be doing better than they're currently doing right now.
Yeah. So why are there agents that still feel like they're limited to local? Like, what is that? I hear it all the time. Like, I'm not local. I can do this. I do a bunch of referrals everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why is it difficult for some to adapt to that will help scale their business, right? Like they're just trying to stay in their market.
Yeah. I think the psychology is like, if I get known as the person in this geographic area, that, I'll be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned is in 2008 and 9, when the marketplace collapsed, what we're experiencing now is like a correction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a blip.
Yeah.
That was like massive destruction. It's like an atomic bomb went off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you have financial institutions being disappeared off planet Earth. And we had in Florida, something like 40% of all homes on the market were foreclosures.
Wow.
And prices were going down 25 to 30% a year, right? And I built my business during that, growing 25% year over year until we got to 100. And what I learned experientially is it's like, okay, if there's only a certain amount of transactions going to happen. So we went from approximately 6 million transactions to this year on track for 4.2 million.
Okay. Wow.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Right? The last time we had 4.2 million sales was in, I think it was 2009, but during then we had like 900,000 real estate agents, 990,000. We have 1.6 million now. It's like the Hunger Games, bro, for real estate. We have a lot of people that are going to disappear because of that. And when that happens, though, if let's say you're concentrated in a geographic area, you like dominate the hills.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when the marketplace pulls back from 6 million to 4.2 million, let's say a 30% pullback, there will be less transactions in that neighborhood. So what would be the logical, practical thing to do? To dramatically expand where I go. So when that happened and the marketplace constricted, I started to go an hour in all directions. Okay. Only for listings though, because it's a higher leveraged activity. I'm not gonna show property an hour away.
Yeah.
But I can take a listing an hour away, right? And put a lockbox on and sell it. So I think it's just like an inaccurate assessment of reality. That if it makes logical sense that we're in the leads generating business, so it would make sense for me to be not bound geographically with where I go and who I serve.
Gotcha. So I had Glenda Baker on.
Yeah.
And she's another one that really believes in agents building their own brand, not relying on a broker.
Yeah.
Right. And so she had just came from speaking at an event, a lot of EXP there, obviously. Yeah. And she was like, yeah, I just ticked off everybody there.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm telling them like, you need to be building your own brand.
Yeah.
And I know you share some of that same sentiment, right? Like, yes, building your own brand. How do you do it? I guess to say like collectively with a company like EXP who does have some limitations on, what you can do as far as the branding.
Yeah, here's my direct experience. Now I've only been with the company 16 months.
Okay.
I don't have limitations in any way as far as like what I can do or the colors I use or whatever I decide to do. And I think it's not either or, it's both. So eventually, if you got a strong brand, eventually you're gonna have to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And you need the skills to convert.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's both. And what I've done in my career is I was lopsided. I was just all on the skill part, like the Heisman Trophy winner of listing property, like a machine, right? I didn't know how to market though. So now with the marketing, you can get an influx of leads, but you have to convert them. And that comes down to the soft skill of knowing what to say and how to say it.
Yeah.
And pre-qualifying and asking questions. So I do think that what she's saying is accurate in that, for example, there's a very large brand that has 152,000 followers. Well, my business partner has 142,000 and he's one human. He's just as big as their whole brand.
Right.
And part of the value proposition of these franchises is our brand. Our brand helps you get business. Our brand helps you get this. And what I've learned is like, it doesn't matter the t-shirt that I wear, right? And now with platforms and with all the things we've been talking about, I can be bigger than a franchise that's all across the country and I'm just one person, right? And all the rewards of that can flow back to you as that one person. So I think it's both. And I think what agents grapple with is which one do I focus on, right? And I think, unfortunately, the answer is both. Yeah. It's kind of like what Gary Vee says. He's like, should I do volume? He's like, yes. It's like, but should I also like just push out whatever's coming out? He's like, yes.
Yeah.
It's like both.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Aaron, I mean, you said so much, and there's so many takeaways from this episode. Tell me, if someone's interested in getting some coaching by you and learning from you, how do they do that?
Yeah. So there's a couple ways. One is they can check us out at Aaron Novello, right? AaronNovello.com. And there's different ways that they can participate. And the other way is if they decide to partner with us, right, at EXP. So what the model allows us to do is that I've had this coaching company for 8 or 9 years. About 12 people, agents that we coach, make over $1 million a year. About 100 agents that we coach. And what the platform allows us to do is to give away 75% of all of the coaching for free.
Okay.
Right? So there's different mechanisms. One is if you want to just pay for the information. That's dope. We love you, right? We're not going to like hammer on you to try to join or whatever. Like we're going to serve you and add value in that capacity. The second is if you want to be a part of what we're doing and you partner with us, then we have a really powerful value stack. Not only myself, but also our partner Jose and our other partner Lars Hedenberg, who has a company called Real Estate B School, that he provides access to Real Estate B School, and it's free. So we've been really, really intentional about making sure that agents are fully equipped with everything they can possibly need to be as successful as they can, because I want to exchange with people in ways that are overly abundant. I want them to get way more than anything I expect to receive in return. Like really what I am after is people be like, I'm stealing from him. Yeah. Like this is dumb. Yeah. Right?
1,000%. Awesome, man. We're going to put everything down in the links below. You'll find everything for Aaron in the description. Be sure to follow his pages.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Wealthy Creator Podcast on both Apple and Spotify, as well as on YouTube. Like, share it, please. Comment below who you want to see next. Comment below, too, if you really believe that this guy is going to be the next big thing like I do.
Let's go.
I think you're going to have a great future. I affirm what you're saying. What you said earlier, too, even about your mom. One thing I believe in is honoring your mother and your father.
Yeah.
And I've had my own experience with that health.
Sure.
And so I know that you will be rewarded for your obedience and what you did and starting over. So I look forward to everything, bro.
Yeah,
Appreciate you coming again.
Look forward to it.
All right. It's been another episode. Thank you for tuning in.